Right, hello guys, welcome to my tutorial on this Lighthouse. I have no idea how to pronounce it, so I'm going to stick it, you'll see it come up on the screen now. So I went to North Wales, I went to Anglesey to this Lighthouse for Enterprise UK. They've given me a car to go and drive to this location and teach people how to do long exposures using filters, exposure times, and to show the settings that I use to create this look. Now, this is what came out from the camera. As you can see, there's a bit of a blue tint to it that comes from the filters. You can use different white balances in your camera, but as I said on my tutorial, I use auto white balance, and I can change all this then in the settings when I come into Lightroom. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to edit this. So I've showed people how to take this image, what equipment you need to use to take this image, and now I'm going to show you how to edit this image. Now I've stuck in the card into the computer, into my Mac, and it's down, and I can select. I'll go into library, I'll go into import. Up here there would be the card's not in at the moment, but if I was put the card in, you'll see untitled, or if you've named the card, it will appear in here. You click on it, and then you'll see the images that you've taken on that card arrive in this selection. And then you just pick the ones you want, or download them all. And I've downloaded them all. I'll cancel there. And the images I've taken that day are all at the bottom here, which come into this slide, and this is the end result that I'm looking to achieve from editing that image. So I've edited it already to see how it comes out, and that is what I've ended up the final process looking like, and I'm going to show you how I've achieved that. I'm going to be using Lightroom for pretty much 99.9% of the edit. Then I'm going to use a little glow that I use in Photoshop. Right, okay, let's have a look. So I'm going to select the preset as Byrne photography, just so that goes into the metadata that it's mine. Go into the develop module, and now I'm going to start moving the sliders to where I think suit best. So it's very, very easy and straightforward. Don't worry about the history on this, because this is the previous history of that image. So this would normally be empty. So let's clear that. Let's clear the history. So look, I've just changed the exposure, and now you're seeing the history on there. Good thing about Lightroom is that if I close these presets, you have a better understanding where it is. So yeah, so every time I move something within the sliders, or any time I change something of this image, it will appear in the left hand side in the history. You can always go back to any point of this by looking at the history and just clicking on it, and you'll go back to that stage. So easy to achieve, so easy to use. It's a bit more difficult when you come to something like Photoshop to go back to certain points of your edit, where in Lightroom, simple to use. So, okay, let's have a look. So we're going to go to the white balance. As I said before, this has come up now quite blue, the area, due to the filters. So obviously I don't want this blue, somebody might, but I don't. I want to put some warmth into it. So I'm going to increase the temperature up to, let's say about, I'm just moving it. Look, if you go all the way, it goes quite yellow. So I want to go to around about there. Looks good. Maybe a bit less. Stick a bit of purple on there. Not much. Because it was sunset, you will get some purple tints coming in from the sunset. Let's up the exposure. Let's go up a few stops. Yeah, that's come up exposed. So I shoot in RAW format. RAW format is for when you want to edit on your images and you want to do quite a bit of edit. RAW format obtains so much information for you to be able to change certain things within the image without pixelating, without destroying it. JPEG, if you've got a high res JPEG, you still can do quite a bit with it, but not as much as you can with a RAW image. So it takes a lot more information, stores it all within the image, which is why it comes and looks quite flat when you originally put it on. So when you come into the original bit, it looks quite flat. Because it's taken on so much information. So I can pull these shadows out. I could put some more clarity on there, and I'm not really going to destroy it unless you go too much. But you've got so much to play with when you're using a RAW format. Okay, let's go back to. I'm just going to press Command Z to go back to where I was. Okay, so I've gone back to the temperature. I've got a bit of tint on there. I've put the exposure up. One of the good things about Lightroom, I normally start from the top right, and work my way down. But because there's a horizon on this, and it was taken on a wide-angle lens, so there is a bit of a curve because of the wide angle. But I'm going to scroll down to the lens correction. And I'm going to remove chromatic aberration, which especially with long exposure. I wonder if you can see it if I click on it. Just try and see if you can see it anywhere. Normally with a long exposure along this line here, there's normally sometimes a coloured line. It could be pink, magenta, but it isn't. But I always check it so it gets rid of it if it is there. Like I said, because I'm on the horizon, I want to straighten the horizon. With the update that happened on Lightroom not long ago, you can now use these to quickly level off the image. So I'm going to use level. It's recognised that line at the back on the horizon and it's leveled it. Perfect. Now I don't have to keep fiddling around with that trying to get it level myself. If you weren't happy, you could do it manually, but 9 times out of 10 it gets it pretty much perfect. I'm going to add some contrast in this, so I'm just going to, again, just use your eye to where you think would be best. You can go back on any stage because you might counteract what you've just done. Or I do it all the time. I always counteract what I've just done in another section on this, and I can go back at any time and move it to wherever I want it to be. So yeah, we're going to just have a look at that. Yeah, that's about right. We'll go with that. So we're going to improve the highlights because of the long exposure done. Luckily, I'm not blown. If you look on the histogram, not blown out too much. So normally, if I've blown out, I mean, these will be really high up in the tops. If I've blown out the sky, luckily the sky is still pretty good. I can play around with the sky quite a lot without destroying it. If you've over blown your sky too much, as I said in the lesson I did on this, you blow out the sky and your highlights are blown out, you can't get back from it. That's it, it's done. So you either have to make your edit all about an image that's really overly done on the highlights, or if you underexpose, so it's a lot darker, you've got more room to mess around with the edit. You can bring it back and make something out of an underexposed image than you can an overexposed image. But then if you like the overexposed look, then it's going to work for you as well. I've seen so many images that are overexposed and they look beautiful. Right, so let's go with the highlights. Let's move the highlights up. So again, if I push the highlights all the way up, see it goes quite white. Or if I push them down, I can get some of those colours out of the sky, so that I know there is room for me to play within this sky and bring out some colours. But I am going to pull up the highlights slightly. About there. And now bring up the shadows. I mean, it's quite dark around here. I'm going to bring up the shadows quite a bit, so I can zoom in at any time to see if I've gone too much. Go a bit more. I'll probably go double that what I've just done actually. Let's go to 65. So before, after, before, after. See already, look at that. That's bringing out the foreground of this landscape image quite well. Let's look at the white, see if we can do anything with white. So I'm going to take the whites down a little bit. Again, look, I'm probably, again, sort of counteracting what I've just done with the highlights. I've brought the highlights up, but I'm taking the whites down. Give them the blacks. I'm quite happy with the blacks the way it was. Because I've got some rocks, some really dramatic rocks in here in the foreground. I've got some great sky movement going on up here within the long exposure. I'm going to pump my clarity up quite a bit to bring out some drama in this. Yeah, so that's brought some great detail now within the rocks and some in the sky, but I'm going to do a separate section for the sky. Let's put some colour in first, and then I'll go to the sky. So let's pump some colour into this. Yeah, that's good. I think I'm liking that colour coming in. So I'm now going to work on the sky now. There's two options, or you can use both the options. You can use the graduated filter that just select it, click on where you want. If you press down shift, it holds it nice and straight, or if you don't, you can then move it wherever you want at an angle. Then if you hover over the dot, it shows you what area is going to be affected when you start editing in the new subsection that's opened up. But first of all, I'm going to go with the adjustment brush. And this is one of my favourite tools. This is got the feather up quite a lot there. I'm going to knock down not the flow, the feather. And now I'm just going to paint over this part of the sky from the horizon upwards. If you select the mask overlay, it will show you whereabouts and what you're painting in red. Okay, so I'm just going to paint all of this section. You can use this bit to zoom in. Zoom out a bit. Because I've got auto mask checked, it recognises when I originally set down on the colour, it recognises that colour, and unless you see, even though that the circle is on this mountain part here, it's only selecting some of it because it recognises this colour I've selected within this crosshair, and it's colouring it in red. So I do want the mountains to be a part of this section, so I'm going to have to click on the mountains and paint over it. So again, it's going to recognise the line here as a different colour to the sky, so it won't paint over it. There's a slight section there that's the same colour, but doesn't matter. I'll get rid of that later. Right, I want to make sure it all goes red. Now, because I'm going to pump some clarity in this, you can start getting, you can see lines appearing if you pump too much clarity in it. So if I take off the mask overlay, if I put the clarity up all the way, that's actually looking quite good. Look, I'm on 100 there. I like that 100, but it's slightly gone darker down here where I've sort of drifted over from the mountain onto the sea. So if I select the mask overlay again, because it's still selected, pump up my feather, and then just gently, make sure I go onto erase, because I want to erase this part of where it's drifted over onto the sea. So I'll get rid of that bit I've just put on, and just knock the feather over on top of the horizon, and it's going to just gently get rid of some of that and makes it fade in a bit nicer than being the harsh line along there. It kind of like gives more of a graduated effect going down into there, but if I take off that, we'll see. Yep. Let's get back on there. I want to get rid of this that's on the lighthouse itself. Quite happy with it being on there. Zoom out. Yep, it's looking good. So I've now painted the sky, as we can see, with all the red. That's the section that I'm painted, and that belongs to this subsection that's opened up here. Take off the overlay, and now I'm going to put some colour into the sky. So I'm going to add some warmth. So we want some warmth in this. Go to like 10, 13, something like that. Yeah, that's good. And like I said, because it's a sunset, there'll be a bit of purple in the sun, so I want to put some there. Only a touch, don't want too much. I also want to add some contrast in there. Knock down the highlights a little to bring out some of this colour that's going to be happening here from the sun that's just setting over this section. About here it is. Let's knock down the shadows as well, because I want to bring this in darker at the top here, because I want a bit of a dramatic look. So I'm going to knock down the shadows. We'll go to about 15, 16. And then we're going to put some colour in there. So let's add a lot of colour. See, bring out some nice colour in the sky. One thing that you have got to be aware of, though, is that when you do put a lot of clarity in the sky, it can sometimes give a lot more noise within the sky. Because we'll use the long exposure for this image, if there is a bit of noise in there, there's nothing wrong with then using the noise reduction tool to knock out some of the noise that's happening, because it's a long exposure, so you're going to get a blurry sky anyway. So there's nothing wrong with now having more using the noise reduction to make that a bit more blurry, because that's the effect that long exposure gives you anyway. Let's come out of there. Right, yeah, I think I'm happy with the way the sky's looking at the moment, even though I want it a bit more dramatic. So because I want a bit more drama within the sky, what we're going to use now is that we're going to use the other tool that we have available to create a better sky, is the graduated filter. So if I use the graduated filter now, because I'm going to have this section of the sky more dramatic, I don't really want to go over the lighthouse, because you're going to end up with more of a defined line between the lighthouse and the sky. So I'm just going to hold shift, click, drag down, because the lighthouse is going to be in the graduated area, the lighter graduated area, it's not going to affect it too much. So if I look on that, yep, see, so the red's just starting to fade there, which is perfect for me. I'm going to add some drama into it. So we're putting up the contrast. So already it's getting darker. I'm going to pump up the clarity all the way again. I'm also going to put a little bit more of the noise reduction on because I've added more clarity. It's going to get a little bit more noisier. I'm going to knock down the highlights to, let's go to 15. Yep, and then I'm also going to lower the shadows to bring out those shadowed areas at the top of the sky. Yep, that looks good. And I'm going to put some more colour into this as well. Yeah, that's looking nice. Yep, so I'm done with that. But I have noticed that I'm not too keen on the whiteness of where I've graduated the adjustment brush. So if I look again, I zoom in, there's a bit too much white going on there. So if I want to paint that back in again, all I do is zoom out, select the adjustment brush, zoom back in. I'm on A, yeah, and then I'm just going to paint again back in. Just go on the overlay, see what I've painted. It looks darker here. Yeah, see, I've gone too far over there, so I've got to go on the erase and just get rid of that bit. Yeah. Again, go back on A. I want to just more graduated in there. More graduated in there. I'll knock this bit out. Let's come over the sea here. Yep, that's better. Come out. Take off the overlay. Let's have a look. Yeah, like that. That's a lot better. Okay, so we're done with that section. So we're now back in the main edit section on the side, which is going to edit the whole of the image instead of just using the adjustment brush or the graduated filter area where you have that little subsection. Okay, so we're going to come down to the tone curve, which is what I use quite a lot. If I go on to, if I add 3 points, always I add 3 points. One on this section, one in the middle, and one in the top right hand section. Now I want to get, I like quite a faded look when I come and do my images. So the faded look is by creating this part of the curve, dragging it up. Probably too much, just come down a bit there. Like that, that's perfect. I can add a bit more clarity in there to bring it out a bit more, which I do like. And then I'm going to play with these, the region parts of the tone curve, which are a bit more bespoke to certain areas. So again, so if I up the highlights, it should do these sections here. Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to up the lights a little bit. The darks, I'm going to add up a bit to bring out this part of the image. That's going to come out a bit more. And then the shadows, I'm just going to knock the shadows, which will be sort of all these little sections in here that will come down a little bit. It just adds more depth within the image by having highlights that are a bit higher and shadows that are a bit lower. It gives it like a HDR look. And you know, it's a single flat image. HDRs normally it's various images put on top of each other. That one One will show the highlights, one will take a picture of the shadows, one will do a normal exposure, depending on how many exposures and parts of the HDR that you want, which is high dynamic range. And this is what this image kind of looks at the end of it. It does look like a HDR, but I've created it all from one image. Well, I'm now going to go and start changing some of these the color sections. So we've got some orange and some yellows in here that I want to change. So because I want the sunset to be more to appear more, to be more vibrant. So I'm going to add some saturation on the orange. I'm going to bring up the luminance, which gives it. Actually, let's have a look. I want it to come down a bit. I want the luminance to come down a bit to make this part of the sunset stand out more. If I go too high, it makes it too bright. So I want to lower it. Oh god, that's horrible. So I only want to go a little bit. Yeah, works for me. Let's go down to the yellows. So there's quite a bit of yellow in this image. So if I knock up the luminance, see which parts it's going to affect. It looks doing a lot of the foreground, which is great because I want the foreground to stand out a bit more. So I'm going to knock that up quite high. Let's go to 60, and then let's bring in some saturation in that as well. Yeah, that's cool. We've also got greens, as we can see in the grass. So let's see what the luminance like, and then if I change the luminance, I know what parts it's going to affect. So if I do like really low to really high, it's only doing certain sections, and again, it's doing mostly like the darker parts of the grass, which is like kind of like the shadowy areas. So if I want to make it stand out more, I want to lower that luminance on the shadowed areas because it gives it more depth to the image. So if I come down quite. Let's go to 46 will do. Let's pump some colour into it as well. Yeah, that comes out quite well. We've got some blue in the sky and the background as well as the sea. So again, if I use the luminance, see what parts it's going to change. Yeah, it's the parts that I thought it would do. So I'm going to bring up the luminance. I want them to stand out a little bit more, a bit too dark for my liking. So about there, yeah, that looks good. We haven't really got many purple or magenta in there, so I'm not really going to bother using them. Split toning is sometimes I use split toning so I can pick out certain areas. So I mean, I like using the blues and yellows mostly. So looking at the highlights there, I can make the highlights a bit more colourful. I kind of like that cold look. I mean, it was quite cold and windy there, so I like adding the cold look in. Now let's go for the shadows. What shadows it's going to... Sometimes I only need a small percentage to make it all change. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Now we come down to adding some detail to the image to put some sharpness back into it. So I'm going to add some sharpness. Now if you press down the Alt key and then select and hold down on the slider, it will go black and white because it says that you can see the sharpness better in black and white. I mean, I always use this little box here to see how it's looking. If you select on that, I can then move it across the image to look at something else because the focal point is this lighthouse. Let's see if I want like a few areas that it's going to hit. So it's hitting all this area, the background, some of the lighthouse with the detail. Right, again, press Alt, gives you a better understanding of how much radius it's going to put the sharpening to. Oh, it's a bit too much that. Yeah, that's what we do for me. As the detail, I like a lot of detail in my images. And now the masking, which is always crucial for this part, because at the moment it's put sharpening, the amount of sharpening it's using and the radius and the details, it's done the whole image. So I don't want really detail in the sky, because again, the more detail and sharpening you put in there, the more noise it's going to give that look. So now if I press mask and press the Alt key, it's completely white. But if I start sliding, you start selecting, it's showing you the areas that it's choosing to put the adjustments you've just added into the shot, the sharpening. So because I want less in the sky but more on the ground, the more I go, the more it selects the ground. So I'm going to go for about there. Yeah, that looks good. Let's see what noise we've got. I mean, there's a slight bit of noise there. I mean, I have a habit of just knocking it off a little bit with some of the noise. Yeah, and the colour. Now, let's see if I can see any more on this. Sometimes you do get a lot of green, like with this coming in here. I know it's on the rocks as well, but if I knock the colour up, it blends it in to make it more of a solid colour instead of a pixelation of colours. Again, it's another thing that I use quite a lot. Right, so I think I've done that. I don't want to do like you can, because I've done on a wide angle. If I click that, it gets rid of the vignette that the lens has created. And you can add your own vignette later, but for this, I like that it's got its own vignette, and I'm still going to add a vignette to it to add it, like with me again, more drama. So we go down to the effects for the vignetting, and I'm going to slide it that way to about 10. The midpoint quite high up, so we go to about 11, and then I'm going to feather this again, because if you go all the way down, it shows you the area where it's going to start feathering in, so it will blend in a lot better. I'm just going to about there. Yep, that works. Yep. Now, okay, so another thing that I'm using quite a lot recently, a lot of people don't like this, but I like it. It has a nice cool colour to them, and that's the camera calibration colours. It's just good to play around with them. I mean, so if as it says, it chooses the primary colour within these images. So if this is going to choose like a red in there, and it's going to change the red to different colours. It may be slightly disingenuous to what the image is looking, but I'm an artist as well as a photographer, so I like to bring a bit of art to my images. So if people look at it and go, wow, that colour or not, I just want them to go, wow. So I'm going to pull that up to about 4. I'm going to do the hue greens to about, let's have a look, about there. Yeah, that looks good. And then knock the blues down to bring in a bit more turquoise within the picture. Let's go to about, yeah, let's go to about 9. 9 looks good. Yeah, it's looking good. Like, because I've said before, the main focal point of this image is the lighthouse. Now, because I've darkened some shadows, made it a bit dramatic, put a vignette in, it's kind of like the lighthouse is blending into the back, and I need it to pop out a bit, like to pop from the image a lot more. So what I'm going to do now is select the adjustment brush and then zoom in, and then I'm going to click it on the lighthouse. Let's select the overlay so we can see where we're painting. I'm just going to paint over the lighthouse. Lower it down even more if it's too big. Don't worry if you go over, because you can just delete that next anyway. Right, let's erase that section where I've gone over it. Let's go back on A and let's paint this bit I've just deleted. I mean, I should knock my feather down a bit, make it a bit easier. Oh, let's go back on A, knock the feather down, Sean. Like so. Okay. Right, so I want this to pop, so if I take off the overlay so I can see what it's going to look like, if I come out of it, and now I'm going to add some highlights on this. See, so if I go all the way up, see how much brighter it becomes. But obviously I don't want it that bright. I just want it sort of to pop, but not too much. Knock down the shadows a little bit, make it a little bit more realistic. Put a bit of clarity on it to make it stand out. I might need a bit more on that. And because it's blue as well, and the sun's coming from here, I want to add a bit of yellow. Zoom in again, see what I've got. Click on the overlay. That catch up. Right, yeah, so it's still this section here. Good. And if the highlights are not bringing it out as much as you want it, you can just add a little bit of exposure on it. So let's go by, there you go. Right, so now that's popping out a lot better. It's blending in a bit too much in the background, so it's standing out a little bit more. I think I still want a bit more, to be honest, so I'm just going to select it again and up the exposure on it. Yeah, that works for me. Okay, so I think we are pretty much there. So we're going to have a look at some of the, knock that up a bit more. Yeah, no, I'm happy the way that looks. I mean, it looks beautiful like that already, the way it's changed. Let's go back to how it did look. I mean, that was before I've added the exposure. So that's how it did look. To now it looks now. So much better, and because, like I said, because it's a raw file, I've managed to sort of pull these colours out, the highlights, the shadows, create a real dynamic look, and with a lot of depth within this long exposure shot of this this lighthouse. Another trick that I play about with is to do something in Lightroom, is to add like a flare effect here. So if I press Control, edit in Adobe Photoshop, it should now open Photoshop. Come on, come on, come on. Anytime now. There you go. What I want to open, where have I put them? in the artwork. And what were they called? There you go, lens distortion presets. So I'm going to choose which one I want, and I like this. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Is it this one? No. No. I've gone past it. Maybe I search for the one I want now. Ah, it's that one. Right, so if I open that, if I drag it and put it onto this image, okay. If I select lens distortion, press play. Press play. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't want to change any of this. Okay, right, okay, lovely. So now I've got a nice flare. I want to just angle that slightly like this. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And put it whereabouts the sun was. I don't want this part of the flare to be in it, so it's going away. Put it like that. Yep, okay, so I enter that. Now if I put on, if I put a layer mask on there, I don't like the way it's coming over this part. So got the black brush selected, and I'm just going to paint over this section. What am I on? I'm on 41%, so it's only very light. And then a bit on the top. Yeah, like so. Yep. And if I Command S that, and that will shall now save what I've just done there and stick it back into Lightroom. I love it when they all join up like this. It makes my life so much easier. So if I go into Lightroom now, there it is. Right, so that's it, finished. As I said before, the before was that to now being that. Again, Lightroom is so easy. So easy to use, just typical sliders. It's non-destructive. The workflow of your history and everything that you have in it is just makes my life so easy, and the final result can be so good. It helps when you have a beautiful location like this. A couple of miles to walk there, but definitely worth the walk. If you have any questions, just pop them on the comments. Please subscribe, like my page, and share it if you feel that anyone else can benefit from this and learn anything from this tutorial. Again, thanks very much for tuning in, and I hope again to see you soon. I try to do a lot more. I keep saying this. I'll try to do more than if I can. But I'm so busy at the moment, which is a good thing. But if I can have 5 minutes to do one of these, then I will do. So until next time, take it easy, guys.